Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regalytics, and the September surge is here. 22,443 regulatory alerts, which is more than double last week's. And that's a lot to stay on top of. I produce this weekly show for myself, but also now for customers. And the scripts are entirely different based on what you're actually interested in. So if you're into crypto, there were 61 alerts. If you're into healthcare alerts, there were 330. If you're into ESG and climate risk, there were 39 alerts. And the nice thing is, it takes me about an hour a week to just know everything going on. But if I only followed, for example, artificial intelligence alerts, with Regalytics, it would take me 5 minutes to review the 16 headlines to know what over 8,000 regulators produced on the topic of artificial intelligence in the last week. 5 minutes. Come subscribe to Regalytics, or better yet, just let me make videos for you, or even your customers, because with Regalytics, it's easy for me and I love it. The regulator of the week is the good old IRS. Yes, the tax man, but now it's the tax man with a budget because the IRS is capitalizing on the Inflation Reduction Act funding it received. And after performing a top to bottom review of their enforcement efforts, they announced this week, and this is their words, the start of a sweeping, historic effort to restore fairness in tax compliance by shifting more attention onto high-income earners, partnerships, large corporations, and promoters who are abusing the nation's tax laws. So if you're in the tax department or you're super wealthy, get ready. The topic of the week is lithium batteries. In a press release about Michigan being on its first ever economic mission to Japan, because I guess the states now do their own foreign trade now, Michigan proudly mentioned it was named one of 3 states in the running alongside Georgia and Kentucky that are poised to dominate electric vehicle battery manufacturing in the United States by 2030. But also this week, Illinois announced a new state-of-the-art $2 billion electric vehicle lithium battery manufacturing plant in the state. I have never heard the term non-proliferation in relation to fossil fuels, but leave it to California. The California State Senate passed a resolution to urge the United States government to join in formally developing a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Meanwhile, New York City, starting on September 16th, so that's next week, all retail stores in the city who sell, lease, or rent any battery-powered mobility devices like electric bicycles, scooters, etc., must ensure that the lithium-ion batteries these devices use are certified by an accredited testing laboratory. And here's the kicker. This year already, lithium-ion batteries have caused 170 fires, injured 96 New Yorkers, and killed 14. I live just across the river from New York City, and I did not know this. What else must you know? New York State passed a law that prohibits employers from forcing employees to attend or participate in meetings where the employer is expressing its view on political or religious matters. The Federal Reserve put out a Feds note, which are basically articles in which the board staff offer their own views and present analysis on a range of topics in economics and finance. Anyway, this particular article was about corporate profits in the aftermath of COVID. It starts with the normal narrative that the high inflation environment we're in is a result of corporations who were anticipating higher costs in their supply chains because of the pandemic started overcharging customers. And with an untrained eye, you look at the report and you can see corporate profits leap after the pandemic. But as it turns out, says the report, most of these profits were not actual sales. They were government loans, and the costs that went down were not actually supply chain costs, but actually a reduced amount of interest that the companies had to pay. So anyway, the deeper you look under the hood, the more you can see that corporate profit margins pretty much stayed the same and therefore do not explain the high interest rate environment. For those of you who were totally stressed out last year about implementing the SEC's marketing rule, hopefully you're not one of these 9, but the SEC announced charges against 9 registered investment advisors for advertising hypothetical performance to the general public on their websites without implementing procedures that were required by the marketing rule. All 9 firms have agreed to settle and pay $850,000 in combined penalties. And last but not least, in addition to canceling all remaining oil and gas leases in Alaska's ANWR area, President Biden declared September 10th to be National Grandparents' Day. So happy Grandparents' Day to Maxine, Carrie, Jan, Jay, and Julie. We love you. And that's it this week for Regalytics. Join me every Wednesday for your dose of regulatory news.